You hold up an old sweater, its fabric worn soft with time, and for a moment, your hand doesn't move. You're not just holding cloth. You're holding the winter your grandson was born, the week you and your late husband repainted the kitchen, that time you spilled coffee during a power outage and just laughed, because why not? Decluttering, they say, is supposed to be freeing. But nobody talks about this part, the part where your heart clenches around things no one else understands. Let's get real. Decluttering sounds so simple when you're watching those shows with cheerful people tossing out half their house in an hour. But for seniors, it's different. It's not just stuff, it's history, memory, identity. And that's where the first harsh truth hits like a slap. Letting go is not always healing. Sometimes it just hurts. People will tell you, you'll feel better once it's gone. Maybe you will, but maybe you'll feel like you've erased a piece of yourself. Because that old cracked teacup, it was your mother's, and she poured tea into it every Sunday afternoon, humming along to Ella Fitzgerald on the radio. You remember the chip on the rim because it happened the day she got the call that her sister had passed. Throwing that away feels like tearing out a page from your life. And no one warns you that healing doesn't always follow. And that brings us to the second truth no one wants to say out loud. Decluttering can reveal how much time has passed and how much you've changed. That box of ballroom dance shoes? You used to glide across the floor in those. But your knees ache now. You haven't danced in years. Going through your things, you see it clearly for the first time. You're not who you used to be. And there's grief in that. A quiet, creeping grief that whispers, that chapter's over. It's not just about tidying up. It's about facing the reality that some dreams have folded themselves up and moved on. Then comes truth number 3. Decluttering doesn't always lead to joy. Sometimes it leads to arguments. Your kids mean well. They show up with boxes and bags and a plan, but they don't get it. You say, "That's my wedding album." They say, "We've scanned the pictures already." You say, "I want to keep Dad's letters." They say, "But they're falling apart." What they see as trash, you see as sacred. And that gap can drive a wedge so deep, it turns into silence. You find yourself nodding just to keep the peace, all while something inside you starts to sink. Because now it's not just about losing things, it's about losing connection. And that part stings the most. Let me tell you something else. Truth number 4. Sometimes, you're not decluttering for peace. You're decluttering for other people's comfort. You keep hearing, "You don't want to leave this mess behind." It's like they're already planning your exit. And every drawer you clean, every bag you fill, starts to feel like you're preparing for the end. That's a heavy thought to carry. It makes you wonder, are you doing this because you want to, or because they want you to? No one talks about how depersonalizing it can feel, like your life is being reduced to what fits in a labeled bin. And that leads straight into the 5th truth. Some things don't get easier the second time around. You declutter one drawer, feel good for a minute, then open the next and feel like you're back at square one. It's like grief. Just when you think you're through the hardest part, something small sneaks in and knocks the wind out of you. A perfume bottle you forgot you had. A recipe card in your own handwriting. And suddenly you're sitting on the floor, surrounded by memories, wondering if maybe, just maybe, this whole simplify your life thing is more complicated than anyone lets on. But here's the twist. The most powerful part of this whole experience isn't just what you let go of, it's what you choose to keep. That chipped mug your spouse used every morning, the sweater you wore when your first grandchild said, "Grandma," the little wooden duck your son carved in middle school. These aren't clutter. They're anchors. You don't need 10 of everything, but you deserve to keep the pieces that hold you together. And deciding what those are, that's the real work. That's what takes strength. So if no one's told you this before, let me be the first. It's okay if it's hard. It's okay if you cry. It's okay if you stop halfway and need a few weeks before picking it back up. This isn't a race, and you don't owe anyone a minimalist living room if it means carving out your soul to get there. You're not just clearing out a closet. You're curating a legacy. Let's go back to that moment. The one where you're sitting on the floor, maybe surrounded by half-packed boxes, maybe just holding a single photo you forgot was tucked away. You remember when it was taken, the way the light hit the window just right, the way your husband's hand rested gently on your shoulder, and it hits you all over again. You're not just decluttering a house, you're handling the weight of a life fully lived. But here's the part they really never talk about. As you peel back the layers of possessions, you start discovering things you forgot about yourself. The quilt squares you never finished, the journal you started after retirement, the invitation to a book club you never attended because life got busy. Decluttering doesn't just bring up who you were, it reminds you who you still could be. And that truth, number 6, sneaks up quietly. Sometimes, in between the grief and the goodbyes, you find a spark, a what if, a maybe, and maybe that spark is worth chasing. Still, there's a twist to this process most people don't prepare you for. Decluttering can actually make you lonelier before it brings any peace, because for a while you're surrounded by empty spaces. The walls are bare, the closet echoes, and if you're not careful, you start feeling like you've removed the proof that you ever lived here. It's disorienting, especially when family and friends keep saying, "Wow, your place looks so much bigger now." And you're thinking, yeah, but it also feels a little emptier. But that leads to a truth that only the brave discover. Once the noise of clutter is gone, you start hearing yourself more clearly. And for the first time in years, you're not drowning in things you used to need. You start noticing what you actually want. A sunny chair by the window, a photo you truly love on the mantel, your favorite record playing softly while you sip tea. When everything extra fades away, what matters comes into focus like never before. It's not the size of the space, it's the clarity of the soul that fills it. Still, that clarity doesn't mean the process is smooth. Truth number 8 is that decision fatigue is real and it's brutal. No one warns you how exhausting it is to make so many tiny choices. Keep or toss, donate or give away, save or scan. Every object demands a decision, and after 2 hours, your brain starts to fog. You're staring at a box of cords and suddenly questioning your entire ability to function. Don't beat yourself up. It's not a lack of willpower. It's just too much, too fast. This is why you need to pace yourself. Not every drawer needs to be done today. You're not on a reality show. You don't win anything for speed. In fact, the most meaningful progress happens slow and steady. One box, one story, one sigh of release at a time. Truth number 9, decluttering doesn't always feel like moving forward. Sometimes it feels like digging backward, and that can stir up things you thought you'd buried. A photo of a friend you lost touch with, a wedding ring from a failed marriage, a letter never sent. These aren't easy memories, but facing them gives you power. It lets you name what once had no name. And slowly, gently, you can fold those memories with grace instead of guilt. Now let's talk about the most surprising truth of all. Decluttering can become an act of storytelling, and if you let it, it can be one of the most powerful gifts you pass on. When your granddaughter picks up an old kitchen timer and asks, "What's this?" that's your moment. You tell her about the birthday cakes you used to bake, the way the timer would tick loudly while you danced around the kitchen in your slippers. She'll never see that timer the same way again. And maybe she'll keep it not because it's useful, but because now it means something. That's what legacy really is. Not what you leave behind, but the stories you choose to share while you're still here. So here's the bottom line. If decluttering has been harder than you expected, you're not alone. You're not failing. You're not being too sentimental. You're being human. And if anyone tries to rush you, remind them. You've spent a lifetime building this home, this life, these memories. You have earned the right to take your time. And maybe, just maybe, the things that are hardest to let go of are also the things that remind you of how deeply you've lived. That's not clutter. That's your proof. If you felt seen in any of this, if even one object came to mind that you know you're not ready to part with, then this space is for you. We tell the stories no one else does, especially the ones that only get better with age. So if you want more moments like this, real, honest, and just for us, go ahead and subscribe, because around here, every memory matters.